Hello all, thanks for joining us here at Warehouse and Operations as a Career. I'm Marty, and I thought we'd talk about a few things today that are sometimes overlooked, or maybe it's just things we don't realize are so important. First, I want to mention wheel chocks. If you're not familiar with a wheel chock or a big block of, how do I describe it? I guess most of them are shaped like a wedge, usually made of a hard rubber that's placed in front of the rear wheels of a trailer that's backed up against our loading docks. Their purpose is to keep the trailer from creeping or rolling forward when we're working inside it or driving equipment in and out of it. They're really important and required to be in place. Wheel chocks are actually mentioned in the OSHA standard 29 CFR 1910.178. 1910.178K1 reads, "The brakes of highway trucks shall be set and wheel chocks placed under the rear wheels to prevent the trucks from rolling while they are boarded with powered industrial trucks." Just last week I was talking with a young gentleman, an unloader for a third-party company, that was telling me how his facility utilized a trailer dock locking system, and he didn't understand why they had wheel chocks outside. He explained that someone was supposed to check the yard every so often and make sure the drivers were using them. Now, I've worked around 3 or 4 different types of dock locks, some of them being really cool and pretty high-tech. I used one system that before the dock plate could even be raised, the dock door had to be opened to a particular height that actually had a laser sensor to confirm that it was clear. Once that was confirmed, the system would check that the lock had been engaged and had secured the ICC bar on the trailer. If you're not familiar with an ICC bar or DOT bar, I've also seen them referred to as a rabbit bar. They may go by many different names, I guess. Anyway, in 1953, the Interstate Commerce Commission mandated their use on trailers to prevent underriding or a car being able to run up under the rear of a trailer. And they just so happened to make perfect latch points for dock locking systems. So yes, dock locking systems are great tools. They can also help prevent a driver mistakenly pulling away from the dock before everyone or our equipment have cleared the trailer. Now, their flaw, in my experience, is that they can be overrode or disabled. Sometimes for legitimate reasons, but sometimes because they can be a nuisance to us. If our light system is malfunctioning or the locking mechanism is not working properly, anyone with a key can disable them. I'm straying off topic a little, but the short answer is yes, our dock locks are great. But I always rely on wheel chocks as well, and you should too. It's an inexpensive tool that just adds to our safety, and in many instances, it's the standard, rule, or law, whatever you want to call it. If your facility's written program states that they are being used, use them. Always. And for every load. I myself always confirm a trailer is chocked before I'll even open its door. If our facility does not have a dock locking system, well, the question is moot. We must be using them. As an employee, don't rely on someone else to confirm it for you. Check it out before you raise the door. And as a supervisor, you need to have a written procedure for their use, documentation that everyone knows the process, and some sort of a checkpoint in place to protect your associates. If you've ever dropped a pallet jack or forklift to the ground or seen a trailer pull away from the dock with a piece of equipment or an employee inside it, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a good gut feeling when it happens. Another tool that more and more buildings are using are glad hand locks or air brake locks. Their actual purpose are to prevent a driver, or I guess the wrong driver even, from pulling a trailer out before we've finished working with it. It's a lockout device that acts as a harness around the air intake valve of the emergency brake system. Units are immobilized because the lock must be removed before the air line can be reconnected to it. They're simple to put on and can be installed and removed in just seconds. A cylinder lock prevents removing them without the key. Now, they're not really an alternative to wheel chocks. Their sole purpose is to help eliminate the possibility that a driver will pull out our trailer before we've closed the door and released it. All of these are great safety tools. They each have their purpose. Sometimes we as employees and us supervisors get complacent and try to interchange their purposes. Don't. We know what each are used for, and we know their purpose. Of course, we can rationalize anything to ourselves, but it's not going to change the rules. Follow them, and they'll each help keep us safe. A few other things we sometimes don't think so much about is our daily reporting. Now, when I say daily reporting, I'm not talking about the company's reports that our supervisors may have to fill out every day. I mean things like our equipment pre-trips, our near-miss reporting. And I hope we all have a near-miss program at our workplace. Our startup meetings, we need to look at them as another way to report things. I guess you could say report our thoughts. But seriously, these things can get old to us. We have to fill out a pre-trip for every piece of equipment we operate each shift. It gets old. Please don't just pencil whip them. Last week, during an incident investigation, and nothing major happened, but a bump to the equipment resulted in the last week's worth of pre-trips needing to be pulled. The individual that had the incident had completed his that morning, but it was discovered the previous operator had not performed a pre-trip for the prior shift. He received a corrective action for not following procedure. Oh, and a selector at another facility had gotten into the habit of just checking OK all the way down the list each night. The maintenance department caught it and questioned his commitment to his supervisor. Now, they caught it because 2 others had mentioned sluggish steering. They had ordered a part for it, but his reports never mentioned it. Our maintenance staff uses those reports to keep our equipment running properly and to keep us, safe as operators. In near-miss reporting, let's face it, even if we understand the program and its purpose, it takes time for us to fill out those forms and turn it in. But by taking those couple of minutes, and, really it only takes us a couple of minutes, we could be saving ourselves hours, days, or even weeks of being off work should those same circumstances turn into an incident or an accident. And if not to ourselves, but maybe a coworker. And we're not going to feel good about that. Take those couple of minutes and fill out the forms so the actions can be discussed and we can prevent them from happening again. And let's talk about our startup meetings. If I could encourage us as employees and supervisors to up our game with only one thing that could help us be more successful, it would be to participate and be involved during our daily meetings or our weekly safety meetings. I know some of us don't like speaking up or being noticed, but this is where our entire shift can really shine. Not only can we put some safety information out there, but we can increase our productivity and efficiencies by collaborating and sharing during these meetings. Yes, our supervisors run the meetings, but as we've mentioned before, they will appreciate our input. You'll be surprised how the conversations will grow. Someone just has to start them. Last month, I was over at I'd call it a medium-sized facility, and had the opportunity to stand in at a daily startup meeting. The supervisor gave his shift of, I think there was around 12 or 13 people, the inbound case count for the day, and talked about how congested the front docks could be that day with the shipping department still finishing up, and encouraged everyone to stay focused all day. When he asked if there were any questions, I raised my hand. I had noticed a pallet jack with a red battery in it. It looked older, and it appeared everyone was shying away from it. When the supervisor acknowledged me, I asked about that battery. Why was it different? Well, everyone had something to say about it. 2 or 3 people said it was slower and how it'd start to smell kind of funny after an hour of use. The supervisor didn't know anything about it. Had no idea. No one had ever stated such on their pre-trips, as they had all just been avoiding it. Before I left that day, I noticed that the maintenance department had removed that battery from the equipment and had it tagged to go out to be rebuilt. Bring something to every meeting. That's how we learn and how things can be improved. We're on the floor, and I assure you our expertise will be appreciated by our management teams. Let's see, what else? There's so many little things that are important. Oh, our safety vest and pedestrian walkways. And what about the employee doorways that are next to large equipment doorways? Why do people not use them? They were built to give us safe passage between two areas. I know of some facilities that takes those doorways serious. If a pedestrian walks through the equipment doorway, it's an automatic suspension and or termination. I know that it can become a common practice to use either at some facilities though. Be the person that brings that up and change that culture before someone gets hurt. I'm certain someone at those facilities have seen a near miss at those doorways. It's just dangerous. And our striped walkways, we know what they're pointing out. We know that we're supposed to use them. Why don't we? We probably think it's inconvenient maybe, I don't know. They've been laid out and painted, so it's written somewhere that we're using them. And as we've learned with it being written, we're expected to be doing it. It becomes a rule when it's documented. Let's just do it. And our safety vest. I hate my safety vest. I'm kind of a big guy, and I don't like the way I look in a bright yellow vest, but I wear it. I had a safety manager give me a call last Monday. He had ran across several unloaders working at a facility without their vest on. The written rule over there is that while inside the trailer, one does not have to wear their vest, but anytime they're outside the trailer, it must be on. They had gotten busy, forgot, and were running pallets that, they'd stacked out of the truck and onto the docks. Just wear them. They'll keep us safer. And since we're wearing them in the first place, it's a rule that we wear them. Today we've talked about a lot of things that tend to, not be taken serious enough sometimes. From something as important as wheel chocks to prevent trailers from creeping with us to things as simple as our safety vest. They're all important, ladies and gentlemen. They're written procedures. There's rules about them, and it's so important to remember that we are being paid to follow those rules. It's part of the job that we've committed to. Well, guess I ought to wrap this up for today. I hope you stop by again next week. And if you'd like to share a comment or suggest a topic, just send it over to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com. And check out our pictures on Instagram at WAOC Podcast. And as you know, we're always on the feeds over at, use that little @ WHSEANDOPS on both Facebook and Twitter. Be safe out there. Remember, the rules we've learned are to help keep us safe.